I see some attendees coming in.
Okay, Jennifer, go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the October 28th, 2020 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. I would like to introduce the staff and commission members present. Commissioners present include myself, Jennifer Baskin, Commissioner Christopher Harris, Commissioner Jennifer Johnson, Commissioner Peter Diepenbrock, Commissioner Dana Payne, Commissioner Sarah Staley-Shank. We also have Library and Community Services Director Sean Reinhart, Assistant Community Services Director Adrienne Lee Bird, Staff Liaison Linda Munguia, and also Judy Heron, City Clerk. Next, we will have public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on any items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment, other than to provide general information. Linda, at this time, do we have any public comments?
So if any attendees would like to address the commission on a non-agenda item, use the raise hand feature and I will unmute you. And I do see one, Jim Carson. Jim, I will unmute you and allow you to talk. You can unmute yourself, Jim.
There. Okay.
Yes.
Can I begin?
Yes.
Okay. Hi again. I spoke to you a couple meetings ago about pickleball, and I'd like to say some more at this point, and I will read my comments just for the sake of time efficiency. Thank you for the positive response of taking the first step with the designation of Kelly Park for part of the pickleball trial period. I believe we need an additional site on the other side of 101 for the program to succeed. Menlo Park is divided by geography and traffic, and we should be equitable with both sides of the freeway in that regard. Most of the current pickleball players that we know live on the west side of 101, and I don't think the program can succeed if most of the players need to drive from where they live to the eastern edge of on the other side of the freeway with the traffic concerns. Kelly Park is available kind of 24/7, we hear, and I think it's because the current established tennis players are unwilling to make that same drive. It seems that Neyland Park would draw the most participants. People walking by is one of the ways that pickleball grows and spreads. People kind of take a look at it and say, hey, that looks like it's easy to play. Well, why don't we give it a try and let's find out about it. I don't think we'll have any of that foot traffic at Kelly Park just due to its location and closeness to the freeway. So I know we need to think about the existing tennis play at Neyland. As a current tennis player, which I mentioned the last time I spoke, I'm confident it can be worked out. We are asking for only one court. In order to be fair to my tennis side, if you will, we tried to assess the current tennis needs by doing a random survey of court usage. From September 24th to October 24th, we gathered 100 inputs from a small group of us. Anytime one of us drove or rode our bikes by Neyland Park during daylight hours, we reported and logged the time, date, and number of available courts. Only 3 times out of 100 were there no courts available. One of those was on a Tuesday afternoon, one was on a Friday morning, and one was on a Saturday morning. Again, only 3 times. I have a spreadsheet I'd be glad to forward to the commission if anybody would like to see it, or if time permitted, I could maybe quickly share it on Zoom now, but I'm quite willing to send it to somebody later for your review and perusal. So I guess in conclusion, I would like the commission to consider adding Needham Park as a second site for the pickleball trial to maximize the possibility of the program succeeding the way we think it can. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for your comments. Linda, do we have any other
Thank you.
public
Yes,
comment?
we do. We also have David Yoshida. And David, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I spoke at the first Parks meeting, and I'll identify myself as David Yoshida. We live in West Menlo, and we've been a Menlo Park resident since 1975. 45 years. I will be 80 this year. We have played tennis here in Menlo Park. It's got a key program. We would rent a key or buy a key, and we'd play regularly tennis on many of the city tennis courts, and they're all in good condition. We enjoyed our tennis. But as my wife and I got a little bit older, we switched over to pickleball. We are a member of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club. There are 400 or 500 members in the club. My wife and I play pickleball Monday, Wednesday, Friday in Palo Alto, Tuesday, Thursday in Mountain View. So we play every day. And for somebody that's an older person, it's great exercise, keeps you healthy and fit. And besides being competitive, it's a great social outlet, even considering the COVID issues that we currently undergo. My wife and I drove over to Kelly Park just to check it out. And we went over on Willow Road, came back on Marsh Road. We found that Kelly Park is in a residential area. There are many speed bumps that you need to cross in order to get there. Once there, we did locate the 2 tennis courts from the parking lot, a good 100 yards away, 1, and 2, we could not find a parking space. The parking spaces were all reserved. Also noted that there was a senior center there that also took parking. We also took a trip to Neyland Park. We noticed that there are 5 tennis courts. We also noticed that there's ample parking there at Neyland Park. When we were there, we didn't see anybody playing tennis. So it is our request that we have a trial pickleball at Neyland Park. On the 5th court, which is a single court, we can establish 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. So you can have 16 pickleball players where 4 tennis players would play. And the last thing I would request is during the trial period, maybe we could have the gate unlocked. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, David. Linda, you're on mute.
Yeah, we also have Carol Dressler. Carol, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm a Menlo Park resident also for the last 11 years, and I play both tennis and pickleball. And I really appreciate Parks and Rec willingness to consider creating permanent pickleball courts. I was part of the group that worked for this in Palo Alto too. And I think that it's been interesting to think about the 2 parks. So I play tennis at Neyland, and I really don't go by it. I usually play on Sundays very often, but I have been part of the tracking group. And as Jim said, there have been many times where there's only 1 person on the court or only two. I mean, it seems like that was a surprise to me, but I don't go at those times of the day. So that was encouraging. In fact, I went by this morning at 8:01 and there wasn't anybody on the court. And by the time I got to Mitchell Park, every court was filled. So I think there's probably some benefit of having the court be accessible to a number of people. And that was what I was going to talk about Kelly. I drove to Kelly and back today. It took me 29 minutes to go from my house, and it takes me 12 minutes to get to Nealon. But what I was struck by is I went down Willow, and of course there's no traffic to the Dumbarton right now. And it just occurred to me that once there is, that is particularly at rush hours, it's going to be a really difficult transition if people are coming from the west side of Menlo Park, which I think quite a few of our members are. So what I would encourage is that we do a trial in a Nealon, as David has said. First of all, the park is open, and we've all said that that's really important because a lot of people stop by and just say, okay, oh, what is this? Then there's a park for children there, and we've had a lot of families on the courts, so I think people with children would come. And I just think that the dog walker people who are also in that area are going to be curious and be interested to know. And I will just tell you that I think that tennis players and pickleball players can live harmoniously. It is possible, and I hope that you will include Nealon as the site for a trial as well as any other you're considering. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. And we also have JD Tape. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I have two. I'm reading one for Mary Quo because her sweet little boys are too loud. Is that okay? Uh-oh. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first one's from Mary. It says, thank you to the commission for agreeing to run a pickleball pilot to gauge interest in Menlo Park. However, the news that Kelly Park is chosen as the location for the pilot program is deeply disappointing. I live in Linfield Oaks, and depending on the time of day, it takes me half an hour to get to the entrance of 101 from my home. With the amount of time it would take to travel to Kelly, I sadly will not go to Kelly Park. If the courts were located at Nealon, my boys can enjoy the play structure at the park before or after pickleball, and we could also stop by the shops nearby and support our local businesses. Kelly is just too far out for us, out where we normally run our daily errands. In addition, if the courts were located at Nealon, I can easily introduce the sport to my older son's friends and families because it would be easy for them to get to. Unfortunately, I don't think I would be able to convince his friends' parents to drive out to Kelly to a new sport. I strongly urge the commission to reconsider the decision to run the pilot at Kelly. A pilot with few participants using the courts will not give an accurate picture of the demand of the fast-growing sport in Menlo Park. Okay, that's it. Okay, and then mine is, I am also grateful to Menlo Park, Parks and Recs Commission for your interest in bringing pickleball to Menlo Park. I am fairly new to pickleball, but I play around 6 times a week, both days and nights. I was excited to hear that Nealon was being considered and very disappointed to hear that Kelly was chosen. Nealon Park is right around the corner from my house. I take my dogs to the park there, and I'm very, very familiar with the park. I pass by it on my way to Mitchell in the morning at 10:15 every morning, and like clockwork, there are either 1 or 2 courts being used normally. We could totally exist with the tennis players, and most pickleball players are tennis players, so they would eventually become pickleball players as well. I'm hoping you reconsider your decision to move the pilot program to Nealon, where most of my pickleball pals live. Thank you.
Thank you, JD.
It looks like those are all of the public comments.
I do want to check one thing. I checked on the attendee list. It
Mm.
looks like in participants, Mark is on there. Is he
Oh, yeah.
on a different?
I'll make him a panelist. In the meantime, we do have one more raised hand, Billy Chow. You should be
Hi,
able
can
to.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Oh, hi. Yeah, my name is Billy Chow. I live in Menlo Park for over 25 years. And I fully want to thank the Park and Rec Commission to consider the introduction of pickleball into the community. And I totally support the decision to try it out one time, on a tennis court for sharing. But I would like the pilot program to be more centrally located. From my house in West Menlo to Leland Park is only 2.0 miles, but to Cali is 7.0 miles. 7.0 miles, which is about 3.5 times, just like the previous attendees mentioned. It would take us 20 to 30 minutes to get there. So I just want to say, given the unique, long and narrow shape of, the geographical shape of the city of Menlo Park, it doesn't really make sense to have the trial courts in one end or the other of the Menlo Park district. Just like we wouldn't ask one for at the West Menlo, Sharon Heights area. I don't think, just having one in Cali would make sense. So, just like previously said, ideally should be centrally located, and Leland Park would be the ideal location for people. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks, bye.
Thank you, Billy.
Okay, next up we have Monica Williams. You should be able to unmute yourself, Monica.
Hello, Parks and Rec. We really appreciate that you're actually thinking about pickleball in Menlo Park. It's so exciting because of the camaraderie and the health benefits it provides the community. I'm the president of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club and also a USA Pickleball ambassador. And so I'm very instrumental in promoting pickleball, and I will help as much as I can if there's any questions you need to ask. We have about 50 Menlo Park residents who are members of our club. I've spoken to many of them, and they do prefer Neelan would be the chosen park for your pilot program. I really support this, and I'm looking forward to having pickleball in Menlo Park. Most parks and recreation departments throughout the United States are realizing the benefits of pickleball for their communities. It's great camaraderie, wonderful for health and benefit, and just regular exercise. So thank you very much for pushing forward for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. And next we have, let me see the lower hand, Amy Harris. Amy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Amy Harris and I live in the Willows right near the 101. And I too really appreciate you working on this issue and setting up a pilot program. I think pickleball is a really great sport. I'm a member of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club. I would play in Neelan Park or in Willows Park, which is the closest to me. But I would have a little trouble getting to Kelly Park in the afternoon because there, as a lot of people know, there's no right turn anymore onto Willow from my street, Chester, between 3 and 7 p.m. on weekdays. So you have to take a big detour if you want to drive east on Willow. So I do enjoy playing at Mitchell Park, but it would really be great to have an option in Menlo Park. So I appreciate that all of you are working on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, and I don't see any more hands raised. And I don't see anything else in the chat feature. Oh, wait, we just had one. Alicia Falsetto, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi there. My husband and I both play at Mitchell Park, and we live on Santa Cruz Avenue, and we too would love to have pickleball option at Nealon Park. It's way closer. We could ride our bikes even, and to get to the park on the other side of 101 would be farther than going to Mitchell Park. So anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Okay, now I don't see any more hands raised.
Okay, so next up on the agenda, we have presentations. Judy Herron, our city clerk, will review commission committee policies and procedures, roles and responsibilities.
Thank you, Chair Baskin, Vice Chair Staley Shink, and commissioners. Thank you so much for allowing me some time on your agenda today. I'm going to work on sharing my screen here. Confirming that everyone is able to see presentation.
Yes.
Fabulous, thank you. So attached to this agenda item is the City Council Procedure CC-19-0004, which was adopted by the City Council on March 15th of 2019. And so today what we're going to be reviewing is what is an advisory body, the advisory body work plan, advisory body scope of authority, roles and responsibilities of the chair, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So all of Menlo Park's commissions and committees, with the exception of the Planning Commission, are advisory in nature. So that term, advisory in nature, what does it mean? The purpose of advisory bodies is to invite appointed community members to lend their valuable expertise to the City Council's current priorities. The City Council is the policymaking body, and the primary role of the advisory body is to provide judicious and thoughtful advice to the City Council. Here are a couple of ways that advisory bodies can assist in achieving City Council priorities. They can hear public testimony on the City Council's behalf. This is done through either public comment or public hearings at meetings. The advisory body can study referred matters and return recommendations and advice to the City Council. The advisory body can forward recommendations to the City Council for consideration. And this can be done through the advisory body work plan or work plan amendments that better align with City Council priorities. Now, there may be times when the advisory body's recommendations will not be sustained or will be modified by the City Council. It's important for you to remember that this is not a rejection of the integrity of the recommendation, but it's just part of the process of the community decision making. Now we're going to take a couple of minutes here to just review the work plan. The City Council provides direction to staff through their priority setting process. City Council actions and directions ultimately lay the foundation for all the work expected to be accomplished in that particular period. Similarly, each advisory body is required to develop an annual work plan that supports those priorities set by the City Council. Here's the work plan process. Advisory bodies are to develop an annual work plan, which is the foundation for the work performed by the advisory body in support of City Council priorities. The body must approve the work plan by a majority vote, and the work plan must formally be presented to the City Council for feedback and approval by September 30th. Now, in light of COVID-19 and the reactivation timeline of advisory bodies, This year, the City Council received an information item with the status of each advisory body's work plan. Well, this gave more time to the advisory bodies to discuss, approve, and bring their work plan to the City Council. And then finally, there is a quarterly report out, which is typically done by the chair. So to provide some clarity on the scope of authority, advisory bodies are not involved in the administration or operation of city departments. Members may not direct staff liaisons to initiate programs and may not conduct major studies or establish policy unless specified in their City Council approved work plan. So then what is the role of the staff liaison? The staff liaison serves as a primary point of contact and resource for the advisory body. The general tasks include providing a schedule of meetings, informing the advisory body on directions and priorities of the City Council, informing the advisory body of events, activities, policies, programs that are occurring within the scope of their City Council approved work plan, ensuring that agenda items approved by the advisory body are brought forth in a timely manner, of course, taking into consideration City Council priorities and work plan, and finally, take action minutes. Next year, we're going to discuss briefly the roles and responsibility of the chair. The chair is the presiding officer of the advisory body and is charged with preserving the order and decorum at meetings. The chair will facilitate the involvement of all members of the advisory body and at the same time allow for adequate public participation. The chair can also limit members to the question under discussion and refrain the body from commenting or entering into conversation with speakers during public comment or during public hearings until all speakers have been heard. A couple of tips on how to do that is to hold off on members' questions or comments until the public comment period is closed. And also refrain discussions between members and the public, whether those are written or verbal. And finally, in the absence of the chair, the vice chair shall act as the presiding officer. In closing, the relationship of the advisory body members and staff is active, continuous, and nuanced. Both members and staff are motivated by the shared goal of furthering the city's best interests and assisting in achieving City Council priorities. And that does conclude my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any of the commission's questions, or if you wanted to begin with public comment, Chair Baskin, that is your call.
Is there any public comment on this item, Linda?
Yes, if anyone would like to address the commission on this, go ahead and use the raise hand feature or the chat feature. I don't see anything.
And does, thank you very much, Judy, for a very concise, informative presentation. Many of us have been on this commission more than one term now already. So I, for one, always appreciate the refresher. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Herron? Well, it looks like we'll give you the rest of your evening. Oh, Christopher Harris.
Yeah, I just wanted to, well, thank you for your presentation. I'm one of the folks who've been on the commission for a while. I'm in my second term, and you know, I went through and I read this, and I realized that there are guidelines in here that are different from when I first joined the commission back in 2014. But throughout my time on the commission, the chair and the vice chair have always had opportunity to speak to the media when reporters have contacted us. But in reading through this document, it seems like that's either frowned upon or not allowed. Can you help us better understand what's meant by that clause that's in this document about how we interact with reporters in particular?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Harris. So for some clarification, any member of the commission may speak to the media, but they have to do it as a resident of Menlo Park. No advisory body member is allowed to speak on behalf of the advisory body in the media. I think there's some rules around the city council having that opportunity, but when it comes to our advisory bodies, that includes the planning commission, if you would like to speak to any members of the media, then it would have to be as a resident or as a citizen, not as a member of an advisory body.
And so just to clarify then, if a reporter were to ask our chair a question, Jennifer could answer it as a member of as a resident of Menlo Park and a member of the community, right?
Correct, yes. Chair Baskin
Can
could.
she bring up knowledge that comes up in these meetings and bring that to bear in the conversation with the reporter as a Menlo Park resident who also happens to be a member of the commission?
Kind of scaling a thin line there. It would be better to refer the media either to the staff liaison or to the director of in this case, it would be Mr. Reinhardt for responses when it comes to city business, because the business of the advisory body isn't releasable through members of a commission, unless of course the media watches the videos or attends the meetings, then they can gather their own thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, I see Sarah has a question.
Judy, hi, this is Sarah Staley Shank. Is this just a routine update that's going on to all teams, or was this, did we do something to provoke this conversation?
Thank you, Vice Chair. And no, this is something I am doing across the board. I think this is my 4th or 5th advisory body presentation of this aptitude. It is something that I want to do more often. I just really want to stay engaged with the members of our advisory bodies. You guys are such an integral and important part of city and city business. And I just felt that I do annual Brown Act training, Robert's Rules training, things like that. But when it comes to more veteran members, I don't get to as much face time with you. So again, this was something I did across the board, just as a refresher on, in this case, it was roles and responsibilities. Next time it might be, something new, it's more exciting. But yeah, it was across the board.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that question and Christopher's question, one of the things that we often discuss sort of as a side note to a number of our meetings is how can we actually be most effective as a communications and a marketing professional, as experts in each of our spheres of work and life, as parents, as participants, as sports players, as recreational users. We're invested in this in order to bring a voice that actually adds credibility to the city well beyond that of city staff. So how can we leverage our role most effectively in a way that our tenure really has traction? I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. It's a great question. And it's one that we do get. And it all really boils down to your work plans. I can't stress enough how important it is to get what you want done on your work plans. I can't give you any sort of events or activities that the Parks and Rec Commission can be doing. But again, just kind of honing in on what it is that you see can benefit Menlo Park and getting that on your work plan and getting that in front of the city council for their consideration. Because when they do their goal settings and when they do their priorities, all of that kind of lines up with our advisory bodies. So you want to make sure that what you guys are putting forth aligns with what the city council is. But I mean, again, in the presentation, I had said, if you guys want to explore other avenues, just get that in front of the city council. And your best time to do that is either during the approval of the work plan. As mentioned, you can do revisions to your work plan and bring that to the city council. You can do your quarterly report out to the city council and bring up other projects or things that you want to do. But the work plan is going to be your golden ticket to actually get things done. Staff we're really restricted when it comes to things that the commission may want to do that isn't on the work plan or isn't a city council priority. And we hate to say no because we understand how great some of these things can be. So again, just really working collaboratively and getting your work plan to a place that everyone's happy and you feel you can make a difference with what's on that plan.
Thank you.
Do any of the other commissioners have any follow-up questions for Ms. Heron?
I have just one more. And so, you know, this presentation is coming up at a time when in one of our neighboring cities, there's been a lot of conversation from advisory boards or commissions about guidelines that their city council have been giving to their commissioners. And one of those that came up is around the ability of the city council to remove members from commissions. And I think Menlo Park has a similar guideline as to our neighboring city. And could you help us better understand that particular guideline?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Harris. So there is a provision in this policy that states the city council can remove any advisory body member whose attendance dips below, I believe it's 63%. Every March, I deliver a staff report to the city council providing an attendance update. And that's true for all advisory bodies as well as the city council. And this comes in March because of the annual recruitment in April. Just kind of coincides with that. And it's at that time that the city council does have the ability to dismiss a member for attendance. There are no other provisions that I can recall offhand for dismissal, except for the attendance.
Okay, that's terrific. So we can't be removed then from these commissions, except for one time a year when the city council looks at our attendance.
Of course, if there was something egregious that were to happen, then I mean, I'm sure that the city council could discuss this. But in the policy, it's attendance that really raises some red flags.
Okay, very good. Thanks for clarifying that. And I mentioned this just because, you know, in this current context, given the conversation in this other city, it's just comforting to know that we can say things in these meetings and not have to be worried about what a council member might think about what we're talking about and whether we should be going in a particular direction simply because we're worried about how a council member might react. Appreciate it.
Jennifer Johnson.
Hi, Judy, I have a question about that. I'm sure you are aware of the report that came out in, I believe, the Almanac a couple of years ago about attendance records on the commissions.
I am actually not. Was it pre-2018?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So the Almanac got the information from multiple commissions and published the attendance rates of commissioners in an attempt to kind of smear the city and the commissions about, you know, people aren't really showing up. I was listed on that. The 3 meetings that I missed were because I was having surgery for cancer. And I really didn't think it was appropriate that I was listed in that way. I would just encourage you, when you are doing these things in March, to possibly contact people who have missed meetings and make sure that, well, I guess evaluate maybe the circumstances under which their absences were occurred.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And actually, in the report that I provide to the City Council, I do try to include whether these were either pre-notified absences or if it was, you know, a no-show, things like that. So we do try to get a little bit more than it was just absent. It was an excused absence opposed to an inexcused absence. Pardon?
Your predecessor did not.
Understood.
So I just a little suggestion.
That is very good to know, and I will ensure that those details are made very clear on the reports that go out in March. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Mark, do you have a question as well?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Judy, thank you for the report. I wanted to suggest that the time I'm going to spend tonight on the report that I'm giving later kind of dovetails with this a little bit. I don't know if you have time to stay or not, but I think we can extend the conversation because
Mark, you've frozen. Mark, we missed about the last, right after you invited Judy to stay, we missed you.
Oh, I just wanted to say that if you wanted to stay, Judy, that I'm wanting to bring up something in my report time that kind of dovetails with this liaison aspect, advisory aspect of what we do.
Thank you, Commissioner Bryman. I'd be more than happy to stay aboard, and if I can answer any questions or assist or even just learn something, I'm more than happy to hang around. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from commissioners, comments? Okay. So on Adrian's recommendation, we will go out of order on the agenda and go to item D3, the flood park presentation. Nicholas Calderon from the County of San Mateo will be presenting. And once the presentation is done, we can have public comments on this item.
And Nicholas, you should be able to turn on your webcam and unmute yourself. And you can also share your screen too if you have a presentation.
I will go ahead and excuse me, share that. I'll warn you, I tend to mess this up every time, so I apologize ahead of time. I think I'm going to do it right.
Looks good.
Presentation?
Yep.
Wonderful. Good evening, Commissioners. Nicholas Calderon. I'm the Director of the San Mateo County Parks Department, and I appreciate you allowing me to present to you tonight on the Reimagined Flood Park project. For background, in 2014, the San Mateo County Parks Department conducted a detailed assessment of flood parks, facilities, and amenities. And the outcome of that assessment was that Flood Park needed a complete overhaul. The facilities, amenities, and infrastructure were all obsolete. That by and large exceeded their useful life. And so that triggered the Reimagined Flood Park project. So for 8 months in 2015, the department and its project consultants had met with over 500 meeting participants and had gathered over 220 surveys to understand what the community priorities were for Flood Park. And as an outcome of that effort, what the department had determined was that the project goals included updating failing amenities, meeting demand for sport facilities, both locally and in the Southern County, preserving mature trees, and providing both active and passive recreation opportunities. So using those objectives and taking the feedback that the department had heard from the community, the department developed the 2015 landscape plan. And the 2015 landscape plan was then used as a basis for our CEQA document, which consisted of both a draft and a final EIR. In 2018, the department, after receiving feedback from members of the public, determined that we were going to reanalyze the project. And so we actually prepared a revised EIR, a revised draft, and a revised final EIR. And that revised draft and final EIR, which was based on this landscape plan, looked at our numbers from a more conservative manner. So we really wanted to look at what are the impacts of having concurrent uses, what are the noise impacts, traffic impacts, parking demand, all of that. And so we really wanted to make sure that we understood what the impacts our project was going to have in the area. And that's why we did the revised environmental document. On November 5th, 2019, the department presented the landscape plan and its environmental document to our Board of Supervisors for consideration. At that time, our board had heard concerns from some of the adjacent property owners that the fields were too close to the back fence and that the department was not going to be able to honor a 100-foot setback commitment that we had made. And you'll see like a teal dotted line, and that represents 100 feet. And so you can see that some of these amenities were conceptually located within that area. So the Board of Supervisors had tasked the department with seeing if we could revise the landscape plan to continue to honor those original project goals that I had listed before, while also mitigating some of the concerns that we had heard during public testimony at the Board of Supervisors. So the department went back and we reanalyzed the data we collected during the public engagement process, and we listened to the public testimony that was offered at the November 5th Board of Supervisors meeting. And we spoke with other park entities and agencies that manage parks like this. And using all that information, we developed the 2020 landscape plan. So you can see off the bat, just comparing the two, you'll notice a big difference is the field that is located in the multi-use field that will be located in the outfield. And you'll see a second sport field along Bay Road. The following slides are going to talk about all of these amenities. But on this slide, one of the things I'd like to point out is that 100-foot setback. And so we are honoring having no sport courts or fields within that 100-foot setback. So we do have a walking path. There will be some picnic tables, but there will not be any sport fields or courts in that 100-foot setback. So a couple things I'd like to point out. First, one of the project goals was preservation of mature trees. Flood Park has over 900 trees, and we're going to be preserving all but 72. So the department anticipates removing 72 trees out of 900 to accommodate the project. And a great thing to point out is the 2015 landscape plan was going to remove 80 trees. So we've reduced the amount of trees that we're going to impact, and we will not be impacting any heritage trees as part of this project. So what we've done is we were able to recite amenities in a way that preserves our heritage trees, and that really by and large allows us to protect, a very large percentage of trees in the park. Another issue, or another amenity that I'd like to point out is the fact that we'll be preserving the same amount, or providing the same amount of reservable spaces. So right now, Flood Park has 7 reservable group sites and 1 really large group site, the Oak site, and we're going to preserve all of those. Some of them are going to be relocated, but we'll be able to accommodate the same amount of guests as part of the reservation sites. We will also be preserving the 20 drop-in picnic sites that are currently there. As part of the project, we're also adding some passive uses. So we will have a walking trail that will go throughout the park. We're also going to have some exercise stations, and we're going to have this great demonstration garden. A demonstration garden is really a garden that displays native plant species. And so it's really just a nice feature that individuals can enjoy while they are walking through the park. While they're there enjoying some of the other facilities we have, it'll be a nice area just to explore and read about some of the native plant species in the area. We're also going to have all ability play areas. Now, one thing I do want to point out is while in the EIR, it's broken out by age group, that's something that we really want to get away from. And we don't want to create play areas based on age. We really want to just create play areas that are accessible to all abilities. That's something that's going to be really important for us in the design phase, is making sure that this park is as accessible as we possibly can make it. And that doesn't stop at the play areas. That makes sure that means that our reservation sites, that our drop-in picnic areas, they are all as accessible as we can possibly make those. And that's something that's really important to us. We also have this adventure play, which is more of a natural feature area where people can use their own imagination as to how they want to explore those features and play on those features. And so I'll want to come back to this slide at the end of the presentation, but point out that we're really excited about this. And I know that there are a lot of great parks in the area that are making great strides in the accessibility area. And we really want Flood Park to be another one of those. One of the big features of the park are going to be our organized sport fields. So the baseball field, which has been there for a long time, will be rehabilitated. We will have a multi-use field that will be located in the outfield. And then we'll have this second standalone multi-use field along Bay Road. And so while that baseball field and the multi-use field in the outfield, you can only use one of those at a time, that second standalone field can also be used concurrently. And we've analyzed that pursuant to our EIR. And so one of the things we're going to have to work on once our board makes a final determination, and if our board certifies the EIR, then what we're going to have to do is draft a policy on how do we reserve use of these field spaces. And we have been speaking with other local jurisdictions on that. In fact, we spoke with Menlo Park on that issue not too long ago. And so there's a lot of different creative things that entities are doing as to how they program and reserve these spaces. And we will most certainly plan on doing that as well, and doing so in a way that honors what we've been hearing from the public and what the real demand for field space is in the area. But anything that we do will have to be approved by my board before we can start programming and scheduling field space. I do want to point one thing out, and that is throughout this entire process, we've been hearing that there's a deficit for field space in Southern San Mateo County and in this area, and that there's really not enough soccer fields. And that's one of the reasons why we went in this direction with a standalone field, as well as this multi-use baseball, soccer, lacrosse field. And each of these fields can satisfy both youth and high school sport programming. So really excited about that. And then we just have other recreational facilities, whether it's the sand volleyball, the tennis courts, full basketball court, and a pump track, which we are really excited about. In fact, Flood will be the second pump track in our system by the time we're done with construction of phase 1. And we're doing one in Quarry Park right now. They're really just these great features that the nice thing is you can ride your bike to the park and you can have this awesome bike feature while you're there. And it's really just a great place for the community to get together at. Cannot stress enough how excited we are about this feature. And then there are going to be some impacts that I really want to just kind of address up front, and that one of them is noise. And so, so we can mitigate noise impacts, we've agreed to a couple mitigating measures. One is fields will not be allowed to be used for organized sport until 9 a.m. And the hours of operations would be 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. or whenever we close. So for example, we're getting ready to bring our closing hours down to 6 and then to 5 p.m. eventually based on the time that it starts getting dark. And so if our park is closing at 6, obviously we would not allow sport activity to go on past 6. But when the park closes at 8, then it would be able to go till 8, but would not be able to start any sooner than 9 a.m. We would also prohibit air horns altogether. So that's not something that would be allowed at the park. And any type of sound amplification equipment would require a permit. So any type of speakers or anything like that, if you would want to use those, you would have to get a permit from us. And And those are the types of measures we're putting in place to make sure that the park is not going to get overly loud. The other thing we'll be doing is increasing our patrols to make sure that people are following the rules. And if anyone's not following the rules, we'll be able to educate them on what the rules are, why the rules are that way, and make sure we're correcting that behavior. And then the last thing I want to show is this is our new visitor use demand table. You'll see there have been a lot of changes from the last iteration. And what I really want to highlight here is how we really looked at each individual facility and we analyzed how many people could be on that facility at once. What does that mean from a trip perspective, from a parking demand perspective, from a noise perspective? And the way we analyze this, I do want to point out, is that we have the soccer and lacrosse field being used simultaneously with the baseball field or the multi-use field, along with the sand volleyball and the 7 reservation sites. And we have a preserved Adobe building that we can host community events at. And so what we did for our EIR was analyze what would happen if all of those were being used simultaneously. What I do want to point out, though, is that's not something that we plan on doing. So looking at, say, Coyote Point, which is another one of our parks, the way we program that park and the way we schedule events, we would never schedule a fun run, a kite festival, and a corporate event all at the same time, right? That's too much to put on the park, on the staff, and on the guests. While we analyze for kind of the most busy scenario so that our EIR analysis could be as accurate as possible, that's not how we plan on programming. And I just really want to address that up front because I know that that's a concern that some have. So next steps, I'll be presenting this to the Board of Supervisors on November 10th. And if the board were to certify the EIR and give us the go ahead to go into the design phase, the department will hire a design contractor to develop a detailed design. So this is our concept plan, and this isn't the full 100% final plans and specs that we can go out to bid for. So the design firm would be responsible for doing that. During that design phase, there would be a series of community meetings so that we could continue to engage with the public on this before going out to bid in 2022. And there's a great example. I'm going to go back a couple slides if you don't mind. Here's a great example of something that we've heard that we'll want to really discuss during the detailed design process. And that is the red square on the right by Del Norte is the adventure play area. And the larger square to the left is are the playgrounds. And so what we've heard is, well, those should really be together so that if one parent brings 2 kids and one child is on the adventure play and one is on the traditional all abilities play area, the parent can see both of them. That's a great idea. That's what we're going to be discussing during the design phase. And so, you know, those are things that we really need to discuss further with the design firm. But that's what that design phase is really for. I'm going the wrong direction. So with that said, I appreciate your time and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Nicholas. Really well done. At this point, Linda, do we have any, will we be taking public comments first?
Yes, we'll take public comments first. So if anyone would like to address the commission on this agenda item, go ahead and use the raise hand feature or the chat feature, and I will read your comment to the commission. Okay, I am not seeing anything.
I'm not seeing anything. Nicholas, I do have a question. I guess you did clarify at the end, this is something that you will be continuing to iterate and work on and work with some engineers. And clearly there were some things you identified in the first part of this. I strongly agree with you of having sort of the free and more, nature guided play area closer to a structured play area. A couple of questions I have. The first is you do incorporate a lot of recreational usage out of this park, which sounds amazing and excellent. Is this a wish list of all the different features? I saw, the dirt track and the different fields and all this, that you imagine will get pared down? Or will all these sort of attractions and items, you foresee them being able to be incorporated and budgeted and done? And then just secondly, with regards to when you speak to not the play area specifically not being looked at by age, does that mean that anything suited for, say, 5 and below would just be part of that nature area, or not really tended to? Oftentimes, like sandboxes or much smaller structures are for that 0 to 5 age group. But I know we don't do sandboxes anymore, and I wasn't sure what sort of ideas you have for like the 0 to 5 age group as well.
Yeah. So, to address the first question, I see us being able to accommodate all of this. There are some features in here that we consider ancillary features. One of them being that demonstration garden. There's an amphitheater, which is something that is ancillary to that preserved adobe building I was talking about, and ancillary to some of the other uses. Those are things that likely, if we get into the design phase and individuals are saying, well, there's no point, just take them out, then that's something that we can explore. As far as the 2 fields, or the baseball field, multi-use field, and the standalone soccer lacrosse field, the pump track, volleyball, tennis, basketball, playgrounds, all those, I very much intend that those will be in the final design. And we can accommodate that, and our EIR analysis indicates that we can. And obviously timing will come down to funding. So we have 14 million in our budget for construction of phase 1. And then we've been fortunate to be awarded 1.2 million from Santa Clara County as part of Stanford mitigation for their general update plan. And so we have 15.2 million set aside for construction of phase 1. And then we'll be working with our foundation to do some fundraising. And I can say that our Board of Supervisors has been very supportive of this project, which is why we have 14 million in the bank ready to go for phase 1. So I do intend that we will be able to accommodate all of those.
That's great. And then with regards to sort of the 0 to 5 age group, are you thinking that will be able to be accommodated with the play areas? Or any sort
Commissioner,
of
sorry about that. Sorry, I knew there was something I was missing.
Sorry, two-part
the
question.
reminder.
The first part was.
I appreciate the reminder. Yeah, that's the type of question that needs to be answered during the design phase, but I do intend that our park will be accommodating for I use the expression all abilities, and we use in our EIR analysis that I think we use 2 to 5 as that age group. But we do envision that there's a way to have features that accommodate, a range of abilities, and whether they're on the same structure or if they're in different areas, those are things that we'll have to work out during the design phase. But I don't plan on just dropping it all together and having it be rolled into something else. I see us being able to have unique features for all abilities.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Nicholas. My name is Sarah Staley-Shank. Thank you for your presentation. And I attended the same presentation that you gave, I think a public meeting that you held also as well. I love Flood Park. I live in Suburban Park. And for my colleagues, just as a point of reference, in 2011, Flood Park was closed. In 2012, a number of us rallied to fundraise and petition to save Flood Park. We raised money, we gave voice, we put in community work days, and we were glad to see that we were able to save the park. Then Nicholas, as you shared, there was an assessment in 2014, we did community meetings in 2015. So here we are 11 years later. And so my question is, I appreciate that we have 15.2 million now, but largely there's been no capital investment in this park for 11 plus years. There's no green grass. There's not a lot of stuff. My question is what is the, what can we do to, in advance of yet again, another series of designs and community meetings, improve the park for the incredible amount of community that wants to use it?
Yeah, I would really have to think about that. I don't want to kind of shoot from the hip on this one and promise and underdeliver. Most certainly not what I want to do. I'd have to think about that. I do though want to state that I know that this project has been in the works for a very, very long time. I do not intend, excuse me, I do not intend that the next design phase is going to be another 6 years, right? I mean, this is something that I plan on having our detailed designs and permits in hand and ready to go out to bid, in 12 months from when the EIR is certified. So the question, to kind of phrase it how I'm seeing it, is what can we do over the next 12 months to improve the park in a way that we're not putting money into it just to tear it out in and I'd have to really think about that, Commissioner. I would be more happy to get back to you and the commission and the city on that. But I'd have to look at some of that. I know we've done some minor repairs, but I'd have to look at the trends that we're seeing and how people are using it and where that investment makes the most sense.
For my colleagues who haven't frequently used Flood Park, it is beloved, and it's one of the most diverse and multicultural parks I've ever observed, with even though there's a pay to use there's a payment-based permissions that are used to reserve those different large areas, they're most typically always full, with lots of music and frivolity and cooking out, and it's really festive, lots of mariachi bands and things of that sort. So my question is that right now the park is only being used for pedestrians. You only can walk in. For such a loved space, will that be adjusted anytime soon so that the park can be enabled for better use?
Commissioner, great question and great timing. So we plan on opening the playground at Flood Park November 3rd, the morning of. The playground will be open and the parking lot will be open on November 3rd as well. And I actually went to my board in July, and the board authorized us waiving the vehicle entrance fee at Flood. So you pay a $6 entrance fee, vehicle entrance fee at Flood. That has been eliminated. So that's no longer part of the equation.
No, I love that. I think that really allows for a community of inclusion, which we work so hard to do here on our group. So thank you for that. Let me ask you about security. There was recently an armed robbery of youth in the park. How is that type of a situation being paroled or patrolled, if you will?
Yeah, we always have staff in the park, and we're always keeping an eye out for that. That is something I will say we are not, anything like that needs to be addressed by local PD. So like say state parks or the National Park Service, where they have rangers that are law enforcement rangers. That is not how the San Mateo County Park System is set up. And so something like that would be reported to the local law enforcement. So we are on site every day, keeping our eyes out for that. And And when we open up on November 3rd with the playground and with the ability to drive in, we will be making sure that we have someone on site pretty much all operating hours. And so anything like that would have occurred, we would be reporting it to local authorities as soon as possible.
Sarah, do you have any other follow-up questions?
I do, but I'd like Mark to go.
Okay. I saw Jennifer Johnson also had her hand
Okay.
raised for a while as well.
Christopher did as well.
Ah, I'll let one of you choose.
I'm happy to ask a quick question. Nicholas, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing this with us. Although we don't have jurisdiction here, we are certainly, some of us, part of that community. And ever since arriving here in Menlo Park in 2010, I've spent a good amount of time up, in that area, Bay Road, Suburban Park, all that kind of stuff. And it's been a shame. I've felt that it was so kind of underutilized for so long, and I just had no idea really what was going on. But it's good to hear that the county is committed to it. And I guess my questions very specifically is, on this timeline, I'm seeing an initial groundbreaking based on this in the spring of 22, your first breaking ground on the phase 1?
So design 2021. Yeah, we would break ground ideally, spring, summer 2022.
Okay, so just how many phases are there in this plan?
Yeah, so it's broken into 3 phases based on funding availability. And if, for example, we had the funds to do phase 1 and phase 2, we would do phase 1 and phase 2. But it was broken out based on what we thought was reasonable for our ability to fund.
I guess what I'm wondering is this, because I've heard over the years that the city tried to intervene or tried to get involved, but the county was very adamant about keeping control over this. Is there any point in us working together on implementing this, or is it sort of beyond that?
I think that's probably a pretty detailed conversation that county and city staff would have to have offline, that would eventually have to make its way to my board and your council. But I never say never, and I most certainly don't want to close the door on any collaboration. I think we probably have to explore what that would look like.
One technical question, you mentioned the fields. I'm wondering about the baseball field in particular. You said it's for all sort of levels. As I'm sure you know, baseball, for example, you've got the little people that are playing on smaller fields. You've got the middle sort of little leaguers, then you've got the high schoolers. Those are 3 different size fields. Is the field potentially accommodating all of those?
My comment was with regards to the multi-use field in the outfield, and then that separate standalone soccer lacrosse field. So those are fields that can be divided, and I know Menlo Park does this as well. You can divide those fields in different ways to accommodate youth or high school or anything in between. So that's how, when we talk about making those fields so that they can accommodate a range of groups, it's with regards to the multi-use fields.
I understand that part. What I'm wondering is the baseball field itself enabled so that, or in your vision of it, enabled so that it can be used by various age groups?
So right now the field is 450 down the line on both sides, and is set up, I believe, to be 90 feet between bases. Given how a baseball diamond's structured, I don't know necessarily how we would shorten that to accommodate, T-ball age play, for example. So that has not been part of any of the conversations or intentions at this point.
Okay, so it's a full-size field as far as you guys are concerned. Okay.
Yeah, and it always has been. And so, yeah, we're just rehabilitating it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jennifer Johnson.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Nicholas, I had a question about also about the All Abilities Playground. Menlo Park just, what has it been, a year now? Since, actually it's the park that's right behind Christopher, since our All Abilities Playground went in. And I just wanted to mention, I had gone to the California Parks and Rec Association, I can't remember the exact name, and spoken to a bunch of different groups, and we ended up getting, thank you, Christopher. We put out an RFP, and Game Time was one of the vendors that I had met, and they seem to be doing the most with inclusive playgrounds and also research-based inclusion practices. So I just wanted, they actually did that playground. Just wanted to throw that out to you as a resource.
Thank you. Yeah, when what I'd love to do is work with city staff when the time comes to release the RFP for design firms, is work with city staff to understand how you scope that project and frankly maybe steal some of that language and incorporate that into our RFP so we can end up with a comparable product at the end that is inclusive.
Yeah, and one of the, I imagine that the pictures that you put in the presentation of the playground were like just stock photos.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most important feature is the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So those pictures both had wood chips, and wood chips are basically like pretty inaccessible to anyone who has mobility challenge. So that was one of the things that that we worked on, because of course the universal rubber surfacing is also, quite costly. So.
Yeah. Magical Bridge is working with Curiosity and Coyote Point to do an abilities playground. And so I've actually had a crash course in learning all of this. It's been fascinating. But that's kind of a model for how we want to do this. And I think it's really important that every entity going forward is factoring this in on the beginning and not trying to scramble at the end to figure out how to accommodate this. This needs to be upfront, and that's what we plan on doing.
Yeah, well, the team at Curiosity definitely knows what they're doing, so I'm glad that you're connected. Thank you.
Of course.
And I believe, Christopher, you had a question as well.
Well, actually, you know what? I'll just make it really, really short, because I know we spent a little bit of extra time on this. But Nicholas, wonderful presentation, and Sarah, I really appreciated your comments and especially sharing about the history and your questions. And they were right in line with what I was going to ask. I was on the commission, and I actually remember the Reimagine presentation in 2015. As a member of this very, very commission. And I remember at the time being really excited, right? Because I had, at the time, young kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, my kids are really, this is gonna be an amazing park. And so here we are now, and, right? And I'm like looking at this and I'm like, wow, these are amazing plans. But my enthusiasm is a little bit tempered, right? And I'm not, even though you said 2022, I think, or yeah, I think it was 2022 I heard for breaking ground. I'm actually thinking probably not. But I am optimistic and hopeful, not for my kids, being of an age where they can, be kids at the park. I'm optimistic for Dana's Samuel, who I think there's still a chance that little Samuel can go to this park and really enjoy it. And I'm making this comment because when Sarah said 2012, when this conversation was getting underway. And there have been other commission members who have been associated with that flood park movement, right? Who have come and gone off the commission. And I hope that you can keep this in mind as you're moving this work forward, how this commission's heard and been following this work for many, many years. And we're still enthusiastic, still positive, but we really need a champion to push this forward.
Yeah, and Commissioner, yeah, stay optimistic, please. I will tell you, I am dedicated to this project, and to the point where I, as director, pretty much I've pretty much handled this through the last 12 months, myself making sure that we're ready to get this project going and hitting all the right steps. So I'm committed to this project as well, and should my board certify the EIR on November 10th, we're ready to get moving and engage with the public on the detailed design process and get our permits and really create a community asset, right? A community location that everyone can enjoy and that everyone can use. And I will tell you, as someone who grew up spending every available moment in a park near my house, whether I was on a bike, playing football, whatever it was, I know the importance of parks for families and for kids, and so I'm committed. So please stay optimistic.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Dana Payne.
Very quickly, for Samuel's sake, I just wanted to ask if there has been any discussion. I know it's sort of tangential to the park itself, but for the bike path, the overpass that comes from Bellhaven, the side that myself live on. I just wonder if there's any connection to make like a clear entrance to the back way of the park there, or any signs. Admittedly, I cross the bridge all the time on my bike, but I've never gone into the park. So I just didn't know if there was any talk about that.
Yeah, great question. Iris Lane, which is on that backside, has a gate for pedestrians and bicyclists, and that gate will remain for pedestrians and bicyclists. There will not be any vehicular access on that backside, though. So Iris Lane will not be available for vehicular access. It will not be available for any drop off or pickup, but it will be accessible for pedestrian and bicycle access. And we will work to have proper signage. And, I can follow up with my Office of Sustainability, who does a lot of bike pathway projects, and see if there's anything on the horizon. And I don't know, city staff might know better than I if there's anything on the horizon for that overpass.
I think it'd be great to have somebody look into it. I think for kids on this side coming over, it'd be great if it was, I don't know how many people know that you can cut back that way, but it sounds like it's going to be a destination for a lot of kids.
So Dana, when you come over that pedestrian bridge, and come into Menlo Park from the east side to the west, there's not a sign right there that tells you to go right for Flood Park? Is there no signage there?
I take that bridge all the time to work, and I go straight. So that's why I'm saying, admittedly, I don't really pay attention, but I know like that intersection is a little treacherous sometimes. So even just thinking of like an easy kind of bike path, that's either well lit or signed on the road to make it easy for kids to kind of cut directly to the park that way would be great.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Do we have any other comments or questions? Sean?
Hi, Nicholas. Thanks so much for taking the time to come down and talk to our commission about this project. It's super exciting. Just, as the director of the city's department, just want to obviously say in public, as what we've already know, is that we're really looking forward to working with you and supporting in any way we can this project going forward. But I did want to, could you speak just a little bit about the county's Parks Commission, kind of their role in this project, and how, their work might interface with this commission at some point in the design process?
Yeah, great question. So to date, my commission has received a couple presentations on this, including the original landscape plan and the revised EIR. And so my commission's been involved from that regard. For a design, we will definitely be bringing the designs to my commission probably around the 30% mark, which is where you can still really make revisions before you're too far down the road. And I'd be more than happy to come back to this commission at the same point and give the same presentation as far as ways maybe our commission can work together. Maybe we could talk offline. I don't have an idea of that right now, but I think there may be a couple ideas that are worth pursuing. But this is one of the interesting things about county parks is some of our parks are in unincorporated and some of our parks are in cities. And so how are we good neighbors and good partners? I think that's really important for our success as a department. So I think it's a great idea to figure out how to get your commission and my commission to collaborate on this.
Thanks, Nicholas. And yeah, definitely we'll take you up on the offer to come back. I don't want to speak for the rest of the commission, but I think that would be very important. And when you mentioned 30% design might be around the time that you kind of engage the commission again, do you have a sense of when that would be, like middle of next year or spring, or what do you think?
November 10th. Yeah, probably late Q2, early Q3. Yeah, but hopefully Q2, ideally.
Great, thank you. Just to get a sense of, when there might be another pass at the design piece. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And one of the things I want to do is, all of this is contingent on my board certifying the EIR on November 10th. So if the board chooses not to certify it, then there's going to be a different process, and what that process looks like will depend on the directive given by my board. If my board does certify it, I will reach out to the city staff right away, so city staff can inform the commission, and then we can start having those conversations.
Thank you again. We really appreciate all the insight you've given us on this, and very exciting. And please do leverage us. I think a number of us have, as Sarah mentioned earlier, different strengths and have served on different sort of subcommittees and other commissions as liaisons, and have some knowledge as to usage and other resources that you could leverage during your process. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to hijack much of your meeting. I apologize for how long I've been talking.
Exciting and wonderful improvements are worth hijacking as much of the meeting as possible. So we really
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Adrian.
So now we'll revisit presentation D2, which is the Youth Advisory Committee update. Alan Bruce, the Recreation Coordinator, will be presenting on our progress on that. Hi, Alan.
There he is. Okay.
How's it going?
Hi, Alan.
How's everyone doing?
Well.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I just want to thank the Park and Rec Commission for giving me the opportunity to speak on the new Youth Advisory Committee. I'm really excited to see this coming to life. We've done a lot of work on getting this started, and I've shadowed some other cities. Also, way earlier in the year, went to the Youth Advisory. It's called Yak Attack, which was brought on by the city of Sunnyvale. So I got to kind of shadow what other cities are doing and what their youth advisory groups are doing as well. So that was really great. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So Linda, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so first is the agenda. So we'll first start going into about the Youth Advisory Committee, then going into the overview, and then discussing the timeline. And I will be introducing you to our new team. And then we'll go into project ideas, and then if you guys have any questions. Okay. All right, so a little bit about the Youth Advisory Committee. So the Menlo Park Youth Committee is an advising group consisting of high school age students. This is a unique leadership opportunity for the board to create opportunities that cater to youth and teens. The committee will also provide insight on projects put on behalf of the city as well as our department. For example, the Menlo Park Community Campus in Bellhaven. They will also advise the Parks and Rec Commission city staff on events and programs so that they cater and speak to youth and teens. The committee will also meet once a month on the third Tuesday of every month, typically following the school calendar schedule. So typically we will meet September through May, but just given the conditions of this year, we will be starting in November. And meetings will be held virtually until safe to do in person for the future. And then just some overview. So the idea of the Youth Advisory Committee was brought to our department in late 2019 by two students from Menlo School. And they were brought to our CSD executives. Myself, I'm the recreation coordinator at the Arriaga Rec Center, and Gina File, who's the librarian, are chairing the committee. So Gina's been a great support through this process as well. Interviews took place last week on Wednesday, October 21st, and I just want to thank Vice Chair Staley Shank for participating on the panel. It was really great to hear that we had a really good group of kids or teens give good feedback and insights. So we had a total of 7 applicants apply, 6 interviewed and 1 declined. First meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 19th via Zoom. And also we will have a civic engagement piece in each meeting, having a representative from a different department from the city explaining their role in department procedures and operations. And so this is our timeline. So our first meeting, we will be doing introductions, some goal setting, and thinking of projects for the year. So I really want this to kind of be an organic process where the teens can really contribute their ideas and their philosophies and really things that they want to see come to life. Other meetings, we'll talk more about the vision of the committee and establish our community service project. Usually other youth advisory groups, they put on one community service project. So we'll also be getting some insight on that. And, my whole philosophy is I really want this committee to think outside the box and really, bring their ideas to the forefront, big or small, because I think that's what really generates good ideas and brings ideas to life. So, and then at the end of the year, which will be in May, we'll have elections for board positions. So as we see their involvement throughout the year. Okay, and these are our 2020-2021 Youth Advisory Committee, which consists of Annika Bai, she's a sophomore from Tide Academy. Anna Chung, who is a sophomore from Menlo Atherton High School. Alex Feinstein, he's a freshman at Sacred Heart Prep. Annika Kaval, who's a sophomore at Menlo Atherton High School. Adam Pagzushki, who's a sophomore at Menlo Atherton High School. And Elizabeth Westerman, who's a senior at Menlo School. Elizabeth was actually one of the students who brought this idea to our executives. Myself and Gina are the chairs of this committee. And the committee will continue with rolling application in hopes of creating a committee that represents all of Menlo Park. So a second interview session is scheduled on December 2nd. So we are currently still recruiting because we want to build a few more, to get a few more applicants to really, have representation there. So just some project ideas that I've been thinking of, and as well as some of the department. I was thinking, we're always looking ways to take care of our seniors. So I was thinking of maybe doing like a pen pal project to seniors. So having the youth advisory either working within the group or outreaching to other teams to kind of have a pen pal and team up with a senior. So I thought that would be cool. Reviewing the applications, we saw a lot about having awareness about mental health. So maybe putting some kind of event or some kind of movement on that. They're very tech savvy, and we should really utilize them for social media and them just getting the word out about events that we'll put together, or that's kind of their niche. And then also they'll speak on for the vision for the Menlo Park, the new Menlo Park Community Campus. And then, just hearing their ideas throughout the year on events that cater to teens and youth, and just also making sure they get that civic engagement piece, just kind of, learning how the city operates and all the different departments and layers that goes into putting everything on. So. And that concludes my presentation, and we'll take any questions. And I just want to thank Adrian and Sean and Linda and the commission just for all your support. And I want to continue to hear your great ideas throughout the year.
Thank you, Alan. I'm really excited about this committee. I think that that sort of age group is an underserved and extremely important population here in Menlo Park. I think they're probably outside of us parents who are probably dealing with a lot more of the stresses of the COVID that COVID has caused for us. I think they're ones that are sort of mentally and physically extremely challenged by the current environment. So as much engagement and thinking out of the box that this committee could help lead and spearhead and bring ideas to the forefront is great. And I really love the idea of some communicating with our seniors, and also any sort of kind of mental health sort of programs and activities that they can be involved in a safe fashion for the months and hopefully not years ahead, right?
Yeah.
And just one question, because I know we were contacted about it's a rolling admission, and is there anything that we as a commission or anything we can do to kind of help maybe raise awareness of this committee? Is there anything we can do to kind of help maybe bring different perspectives or people on board that you might need? Please let us know, because willing to help with recruitment.
Yeah, no, I just think simply word of mouth. I think my whole plan was to really go out to the schools and really be present and hit up on, in the classrooms and really be there. So if you guys can help get the word out, and I'm happy to share, the application is live again right now. So I could give you the direct link, and just anything word of mouth, you just talk it up. That's currently what I'm trying to do right now. So I've reached out to some of my colleagues who've grown up here in Menlo Park area, and just trying to cycle through that. So
we would be, I'm speaking now for everyone, but especially for myself, we would be happy to, if you could forward along the link and use our resources. Schools are generally starting to get going again, but most communication has now been facilitated by some great, parent and school apps. And so kind of being able to pass along something like that.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
We could use our networks.
Yeah, that would be great. I will definitely send you that information.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, Sarah.
You guys, I had the absolute pleasure of spending a good portion of my evening with Alan and Gina and interviewing all of these young people last Wednesday. And I have to tell you, I was blown away.
I know.
I was blown away
Right.
with each and every one of these young people. And you just would go from one to the next and think, how can somebody be so exceptional? And then it just happened again and again and again. And the things that they brought up from, you know, abilities, you know, ableism and inclusion, from sports, from wealth, you know, challenges, the haves and the haves not, the have and the have nots, the language barriers, those who are first generation immigrants, those who come from very privileged households who know the privilege that they have and want to give back and strive to be more. Like everyone brought a perspective that was unique, different, and full of dimension of just promise. So I'm super, super excited about having met all of them, adding more to that group. And I really, Alan, do hope that we can be actively engaged, whether it's, you know, socially or through communications, and just, I think that that would be incredibly satisfying and gratifying to a lot of the things that we do. So I hope that you will take us up on that.
Absolutely. No, you know, any support I can get is great. And yeah, no, I mean, I was also blown away myself. Just, you know, I sent the emails out earlier this week, you know, with their acceptance, and they were just overly enthusiastic. So we have a really high energy level group that's, I think, gonna really generate some great ideas and really, you know, contribute to this community. So I'm really excited. Oh yeah.
Commissioner Bryman.
Alan, thank you so much. Bravo. That's great work. It was nice to see that there was such a cross section of participants from various campuses, public, private, from various parts of the city. Obviously very inclusionary, and that everyone interviewed is on the council, the committee, but that's good. What's your goal in terms of the total number?
So, I mean, I'm really hoping to get anywhere between 10 to 12. I think 12 is our max. But I think, you know, if we can add at least 2 to 3 more, that's where I'm looking. So don't really have a set number, but I'm, you know, really want to make sure that we're encompassing all of Menlo Park and that we're, you know, getting different walks of life on there. So
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing we can do from just sort of the getting the word out perspective is, if the commission's okay with this, we could email out a little announcement with information about it to the commission after this meeting, and then you all can feel free to forward it or post it to Nextdoor or wherever. So if, I saw some heads nodding, so we'll add that to our to-do list tomorrow. We'll send it out to you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it out.
Any other questions for Alan? Comments? Well, thank you again for all your work on this initiative. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate your support, and we'll definitely be in touch and look forward to working with you guys in the future as well.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Alan.
All right. Have a good night.
So we are moving on to regular business, E1. Hopefully everyone had a chance to look at the commission minutes for the meeting of September 23rd, 2020. Does anyone have any edits, amendments, changes they'd like to call out on the minutes? And Jennifer Johnson?
Yeah, I can't remember. So Linda, it was in the commissioner report. And I think it should read inclusion, not inclusive. The sentence, I'm sure did not say the sentence in a great, clear way, but I was just trying to clean it up for the record.
Okay, no problem. I could change that word.
Thanks.
Any other edits to the commission meeting minutes? And if we don't, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 23rd, 2020 meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
And can I have a second? Jennifer Johnson is the second. All those who approve the minutes
I
of the
actually
September.
need to call out. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to make the announcement, but I know you need to call.
Yeah. So Chair Baskin,
I approve.
Vice Chair Staley Schenk,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryman,
Aye.
Commissioner Diepenbrock,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Approve.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Payne.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
Great. So next up, we can review and update the Parks and Recreation Commission agenda calendar. Some background here, myself and Sarah met with Adrian to discuss some topics that were on the calendar, ones that were ready to be presented. So that's how some of these fit in, was that the timing and the preparation was already completed. Other topics had been unscheduled, but we had expressed interest to either move them up or add them to certain months on the basis of time management and how we felt were important. So we'd love to have people's feedback, or if there are any changes you feel that we need for the meeting agenda.
Oh, I had a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I thought that I have seen the dates for the November meeting as November 18th and November 19th. I just wanted to clarify if it is the 19th.
I believe we were not able to change the date to the Thursday because of a conflicting commission meeting.
The
But I
19th.
will-
The 19th is that Thursday.
Yes, I'll rely on Sean.
Adrian?
I think Adrian.
So I'm sorry, we were not able to move it to the date we initially said because there was an EQC meeting. And Dana, I think we talked about that. Was that on, now I'm forgetting, was that on the 19th?
Yeah, I can double check in my calendar.
Hold on,
But
let me check.
I think our meeting was supposed to be on the 18th, I thought.
Right. Oh, no, it was actually supposed to be the following week. So we moved it a week earlier, but I think we had to actually keep it on Wednesday. So because of a conflicting meeting. So let me double check that. I know I sent an email about it, so let me just double check. Give me a second.
Oh, that's, yeah, the EQC meeting is that Wednesday, which would be the 18th.
So I did update that correctly.
So
So
it is-
it could be the 19th.
Oh,
Does
great.
that work for folks?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was
a
a while ago. I forgot to.
I forgot whether the problem was the Thursday or the Wednesday. So apologies. Okay. So we are correct. Next meeting is November 19th, a Thursday, 6:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification on that, since it's a deviation from the regular schedule. I mean, the city clerk's here, so maybe she can chime in on this. Does there need to be a formal vote to change the date of the meeting, or can that just be done by consensus like just happened?
Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. And consensus is fine. There's no official vote. Just note when agendizing the meeting, you'll need to note it as a special meeting. And also post an agenda to canceling your regular meeting.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
While we're on the calendar, if I may, it sounds from the Flood Park presentation earlier, it did sound like Mr. Calderon said that they'd come back at some point in the first half of next year. So maybe add that to the unscheduled item so it doesn't drop off, since that's some months away. You just add Flood Park presentation there.
I think she's working off of a PDF, right? But I will add it. He said late Q2, early Q3.
That's great. And will this be a follow-up, or will it need to be an agenda item also for the Youth Advisory Committee if they do, once they've kind of kicked off, or maybe they have some more members?
I think it would be good. Let's put it under unscheduled, but we will plan on having him come back quarterly, I think, just to give updates and probably actually introduce the group to the commission, which would be really nice, I think.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I think it would be great for what sounds like very impressive and civic-minded teens to have that opportunity. So I think it'd be great to do that early on in their service.
Got it. Okay, definitely.
Any other comments or changes people feel on the schedule? Well, I think that looks good, and we know when our next meeting is. So it looks like we can move on to commissioner reports. Commissioner Bryman, would you like to report on your topics for this month?
Adrian contacted me only a few days ago to fill this spot. And I was thinking about what it is that I was wanting to do and realized that I really had more of an interest in bringing a question to the commission. And much of what went on tonight had a lot to do with what it is that I'd like to discuss. We're way over on time, or maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but the discussion is simply this, that like Sarah has suggested on many occasions, I got involved to be as proactive as possible with things that kind of mean the most to us. We were appointed in that. Part of the discussion tonight is pickleball was following up, is that we were presented with this. Peter kind of introduced it. We had a presentation. We talked about it for many hours. And part of our discussion was, well, it makes sense that we do a pilot program in a more central area so that more people can benefit from that. Nealon had been the request, and then I think it was Jennifer who had said, well, actually, it's Willow Oaks Park that is more central to the entirety of Menlo Park. And we kind of went around in circles, but at the end of the day, we were basically told, okay, you can have the pilot program, but this is where we're doing it. And I'm just sort of questioning how much we are really invoking the advisory aspect of what we're doing. It almost seems as if Kelly had been pre-chosen and we kind of talked in circles, and that's what, almost regardless of what people were saying, that's kind of where it ended up. I think it's great that it's better than nothing, but as we heard tonight, the centrality of the thing is, they want Nealon, but the fact is that if we had a more central location, I mean, I know Flood's not ready yet, but even something like Flood where people can come over from both sides, I guess what I'd like to propose is that as we is we have these pet projects or these things that people have talked to us about and that mean something, that we present it to the group, and that maybe we splinter off at some point and we create a subcommittee of 2 or 3 people to kind of further discuss it and then bring it back to the full committee, to the full commission with sort of a report of some kind. Me, for example, I've been thinking recently, because of the pandemic and such, these closed streets initiative downtown, and how we as park commissioners can somehow not spin it as much as kind of speak to it. And I know that the Better Business Bureau or whoever they are working on this, but there's sort of a park aspect to this pedestrian mall thing that, to me, I think is very important. And I wouldn't mind, as I said, having some sort of official way to go about these things, whether it be a pickleball or a this, that we can sort of do a little bit more research and we can present something that's maybe a little bit more impactful. Peter, thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't see you with a raised
Oh, I'm
hand.
sorry.
Peter.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no problem. Well, no, the first thing I just want to make it clear that I did not pay Mark any money to say that at all. It was nothing exchanged there. But I think the thing that came up for me in this whole pickleball discussion is that, and I know we used the word central, but the fact of the matter is Menlo Park is a very unique city. I mean, East Palo Alto is in a different county than Palo Alto. I mean, that's not only a different city, it's in a different county. Menlo Park happens to spread over, a major freeway. And, like was said in our last meeting, that anything you do on one side is not equitable. So I don't even think it's the idea of central. I just think it's whatever you do on one side, you should do on the other to benefit both parts of a very unique city. But thanks, Mark, for bringing that up, because I'm new to this commission, and I was very curious about the process as far as how this works and what we actually have the ability to decide and vote on when it was presented to us, and then it just kind of went the way it was presented. So thanks for saying that, Mark. I appreciate that. It's a good point.
Jennifer, thank you.
I don't know if the people who spoke today under public comment shared they verbally shared some data they had collected. I don't know if that was shared in writing with staff, but I think, information like that might be helpful in kind of determining the need. The geography of Menlo Park is unusual, and it is quite difficult to get from one side of Menlo Park to the other side of Menlo Park in a reasonable amount of time. So I understand that, that's a challenge. I'm not certain, but I got the impression from the people who spoke at our prior meeting about the desire for pickleball, but my impression from those speakers was that the majority were Central and West Menlo Park. That doesn't mean that pickleball couldn't take off and be a sport that is loved, in the other side of in Eastern Menlo Park as well. But I think my concern about the way it has gone is that the pilot program might not be successful in that setting, and I don't think that is really telling us that nobody in Menlo Park wants to play pickleball.
Sorry to cut in. I think Adrian's probably going to say the same thing that I'm about to say.
Oh, I was just, oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead,
It's
Sean.
really more
Yeah.
about that this item is not on the agenda. And so it sounds like you're starting to kind of get into a substantive discussion of this item. And so I just want to kind of caution the commission that this item is not agendized. We're happy to put it on the agenda for that level of discussion. And we'll do that, but I just want to kind of put that note of caution out there right now.
That's my question too. This is a commissioner report, not a discussion. And so I just need some guidance on what to do in this situation. And I'm not prepared to talk about pickleball because it wasn't on the agenda.
We have the city clerk here, so it's perfect. But in general, I believe that if people are speaking at public comment, we're not allowed to respond to those comments. And as Sean said, it's not agendized.
So through the chair, if I could just kind of comment on it. We do have a very broad agenda item as a commissioner report. Typically commissioner reports are reporting out on meetings that they may have attended, meetings that they're going to. There's even instances where there's agenda items that they want to bring forth at a future meeting. But if we're going to focus on one topic, as Ms. Leibert and Reinhardt have stated, if it's not agendized, we technically can't begin the conversation until it's been agendized. However, I know Commissioner Bryman wasn't focused on pickleball. It was more of a general overview of what can we do to be more effective. And I did kind of touch on that in my conversation, in my presentation about the work plan and things like that. But if the commission would like to focus on that broader conversation of what can we do to be more effective, that's totally appropriate. If we start to centralize, then we would have to agendize it for a future meeting. And I'm sorry that the city clerk is here and telling you no's.
Yes, thank you. That's all I was suggesting, is that it was under discussion about a particular thing as much as it was a concept of how we can bring things to an agenda which we may be more informed about.
No, we appreciate that, Mark. And I think I definitely think it's something that it's worth us kind of reviewing over time when we kind of hear some feedback, possibly bringing it back to a discussion amongst ourselves so we can kind of help facilitate what people need. Up next, we have the Menlo Park Community Campus Project update. Hopefully people were able to read the staff report. And I believe, will Adrian or Sean be speaking on that?
Before I do, I think Ms. Heron was kind of sticking around for the previous item. So maybe we could let Judy go for the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. And again, just a huge thanks to Chair Baskin, Vice Chair Staley-Shank, and all of the commissioners for your time and attention this evening. You all have my email and phone number. Feel free to call, email with questions, comments, concerns. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sticking around.
Yes, and the MPCC report, it's a written report, just submitted it for the commission's information, and happy to answer any questions that you may have about it.
Does anyone have any questions for Sean on the report? And I do have to say, thank you very much. You always have very detailed reports, and these agendas are always sent out early enough with us working from home. So we always have a chance now to review them.
Well, I'll just highlight the one
Sure.
major thing to know is that the city council on November 10th is going to be discussing the interim services plan. So how services will be delivered during construction when the current center is torn down. That's going to be a pretty important discussion. Also, they'll be discussing funding options for the items that Facebook's not paying for, which includes the pool, the swimming pool facility, and it includes a bunch of other kind of upgrades to the project. And that's November 10th. So that's like kind of the key takeaway from this particular report.
We also have an update on the Tier 1 projects from the Parks and Rec Facilities Master Plan.
So there was some interest by some of the commissioners to find out how we were tracking on some of the top tier projects from the facilities master plan. So there were 14, and the ones listed, Chris Lamb, our Public Works Director, provided a brief update. But basically the 5 that are funded are ones that have been identified and funded on the CIP. But other than that, I mean, I shouldn't say other than that, because actually there is a lot of work being done. And then the new Menlo Park Community Campus is a gigantic project that we're taking on. But at this time, the other ones are kind of on hold and not funded while the city focuses their resources on those.
This is really great. Thank you, Adrian. Some of the, it's not surprising given kind of the reduction in resources and what we've gone through in the last 6 to 8 months, what's been going on. But hopefully now that we're all re-engaged and maybe seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. Does anyone have any questions on these Tier 1 projects for Adrian?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is that it's nice to see that the work on the Burgess Park Playground is continuing, and then we'll move on to Willow Oaks too. Sorry, Jennifer.
Jennifer
No,
Johnson, did you have one?
Yeah, that was actually the question. In one place, it said that was fall of 2021, and somewhere else it said fall of this year. So is the Burgess project in process?
The Burgess project, they are working on some stuff, but that is actually happening before the Willow Oaks. So they're lumped together, but we'll start Burgess first and then Willow Oaks.
The Burgess Playground.
Yes.
And that's with the same group that did the other one. Wasn't that all grouped together as they were going to do? Okay.
Yep, and they had started already, so we're continuing with that.
Great.
And following, we have the Library and Community Services Department updates. These are some good ones.
Thank you. Again, the written reports there. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I actually had one specifically about the library. I just wanted to add this. It's not my commissioner report time, Mark, so I don't want to steal any of your thunder. But I will say that given that my children haven't really had a chance to get back into actual school until this past week, utilizing the library for reading materials has been invaluable. And the system with the app and just the availability of the neighboring libraries and how they work together to get our books is fabulous and fantastic. One question I had though was with regards to scheduling appointment times. I do find whenever I try to schedule an appointment time, there are many available, which is great. But that they're always at least a day or two out. And sometimes, unfortunately, your children are telling you like, I need a book to read for my report, kind of with a much shorter notice. So I found that there were maybe times I kind of went ad hoc to the library to pick up a book that I know was ready, but yet available, yet wasn't, part of my appointment time. And some people are really firm about the appointment, even though there's like no other people in sight. So just kind of maybe just a request that there's, you know, this is kind of what happens in sort of the general world that we're living in right now, or with kids, or how the schooling is working, that sometimes things are a little bit more need-based and we can't plan ahead as much, that if there maybe is some flexibility with regards to taking out books when there are spaces in the appointment, or there is an ability to do so and not have a line, that maybe that could be accommodated.
Thank you, Chair
but-
Baskin. That's actually a great suggestion that we've heard a few times in recent weeks, and the library team has been trying to tweak the back end process so that they can break away and do that. The reason that there's a bunch of logistical reasons why it's kind of difficult the way it's set up now, but this has come up from a few folks, and it's a totally reasonable request. So they're working on tweaking that, and hopefully should be able to access the items more quickly and even on demand in some cases. We're working on that because now we're, what, 3-4 months in to curbside pickup, and it looks like we're going to be doing it this way for a little while yet. So it's time to kind of revisit the system and do some tweaks for just this type of thing.
That's fantastic, because I really do think it's an excellent program, and I hope it grows in usage. And I think especially with anything new, the more very positive and sort of accommodating experiences people have, the better it grows. It's always like, you know, one bad experience takes away from like the 10 amazing experiences. And yeah, that sounds great that you're taking.
The librarian didn't shush you, did they? I told them specifically not to do that.
My child did look concerned when I was trying to negotiate.
Understood. We'll work on that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I mean, anyone else have any comments or questions, feedback? Sorry, I have to scroll across because I don't have my view set up. I should change my view to a gallery view. Well, it looks like if there is no other comments or questions, then looks like we can, it is 8:46 and we can adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.